Yo guys, it's Haunting Lime, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing my 3 teams for the Remix Cup that are a hell of a lot of fun, spicy, but also meta by the end of it as well. So my first team actually involves a Granbull with Snarl as a fast move, and Play Rough as one of his charge moves, and Close Combat obviously for the steel types, and finally finishing that off with Victini. Victini is basically a code breaker for most of the Remix Cup because of the Charmers going around as well as the steals. V-Create is such an abusive move, it's a bit like a Wild Charge, pretty crazy, does a lot of damage, and I've got my save switch in Pelipper. So this team was a hell of a lot of fun to use. I used it I think for about 3 sets, and all 3 sets went positive. I did try Victini in the lead, did pretty well, but I found Granbull at the lead was actually a perfect choice. So the reason why Granbull is got the spicy moveset of Snarl, Play Rough, and Close Combat is because Snarl is really good at generating the fast move, generating energy for the charge moves. Losing my words today. And Play Rough hits really hard. Most people don't expect a Play Rough; they expect a crunch, which is like the typical moveset. But yeah, the Close Combat is basically there for the big nuke for the steel types, and also the Mandibuzzes that are flying around, because the team can struggle a bit with Mandibuzz because Mandibuzz is pretty thick. But yeah. Let's just do a bit of commentary because I've got three different teams, and they're all super fun to use. A little bit, obviously I was going to say these teams don't require Defense Deoxys, but they do require Victini, Mew, and Registeel, so pick your poison pretty much. So we're on this game here against a Melmetal. Not the best matchup because Melmetal is really abusive at getting to the rock slides. Rock slides do super heavy damage anyway to the Victini, so not the best of matches. But that look at that V-Create does so much damage. But my opponent actually has his own he has his Charmer in the back. So had I shielded the rock slide, I would have been a lot better, but for some reason I'm an idiot, I'm just conserving my shield. So on to the next game. This is going to be a proper showcase. So Granbull into the Deoxys lead is really good. Again, the Snarl's doing extra super effective damage because of the psychic typing. This is one of the reasons why I like Snarl. Play Rough, not Play Rough, Charm would be good, but it just takes forever to get to your charge moves, and because Close Combat is really impactful, having 2 back-to-back is actually even better. So I get the first shield, and what I do is I tend to swap into my Pelipper because Pelipper is the safe switch. I want to outpace my opponent with the Weather Balls and spam them, and because I know my opponent has Rock Slide, most likely he's running Rock Slide and Thunderbolt, which is totally fine, and Thunderbolt takes a long time to get to. So throwing out the Pelipper draws out a Sableye, and most likely the Pelipper can actually, well, not most likely, the Pelipper actually outpaces the Sableye to his charge move, so I'm able to fully take it out, and he actually has a Haunter, so this is a Defense Deoxys double Ghost team. But again, I get to my Weather Ball same time as my opponent gets to his Shadow Punch, which is 5 fast moves, and basically, you know, Pelipper hits hard. Weather Ball is a busted move, so if you can use Pelipper, use Pelipper. Incredibly good safe switch for this Remix Cup meta. And like I said, I've got Victini in the back for these poison types and the fighting types that are about, and even Victini does quite well against Charmers. So Victini is a really good code breaker and a really spicy pick for the closing, and because it generates energy with the confusions, you can often build up to 2 V-Creates, and the first one almost takes out the Defense Deoxys, but I do bring in my Granbull to just kind of do this extra bit of damage because yeah, I wanted to kind of flex my opponent a little bit, and I'm going for the Close Combat because I can. I'm surprised it killed him. I thought it wouldn't, but you know, Haunter is such a squishy little thing. It'll die to basically a cough. So on to the next game, off against a pretty decent lead, a Charm along Ninetales. There's a lot of Charms around, a lot of Steel types around, and a fair amount of Waters around, but not too much. But basically, it's basically a Charm and Steel meta. So if you can find a Pokemon that can actually exploit that common phenomenon, then I'd say it's probably the best way to go, because you can actually gain a lot of points in the Remix Cup if you get the right team. And it's what I'm trying to do. So I get the first Close Combat off. It does quite a lot of damage, even though it's neutral to the Northern Ninetales. It does a hell of a lot of damage. This is why I like Close Combat on Granbull. Just that his available moveset is pretty busted, I think. And he does shield once, it takes me out, but now I bring in my Victini because obviously taking reduced damage from the Charms, and my opponent actually has a Gengar, which isn't the best pick to bring out against the Victini because the confusions do quite a lot of damage against the poison typing, and obviously it's fairly squishy. My opponent doesn't decide to shield. He actually has a Steelix, not Steelix, yeah, it's a Registeel back. So this team, my Victini would have basically cleaned up the whole team. Had I had that time or the availability to sweep with Victini, I would have done that. I could have stayed in with Victini, but I decided to switch out because my Victini was debuffed, and I knew my Pelipper has a really good matchup against Registeel. Again, Pelipper is really good because it can spam out the weather balls against the Charmers, and nobody can get to almost 3 depending on how well you time it. And Registeel basically all his moves are resisted, and he's there as a good counter for medicham as well. So the team has a lot of play against the typical meta, and in the right scenarios, Pelipper can actually win against a bastiodon as well, which is pretty phenomenal actually, because bastiodon is a bitch in this meta. We're seeing it everywhere. So these are actually like my first proper battles with well, trying to win in the remix scope. Before I tried a few different teams, kept seeing bastiodon, and just kind of walked out of there and just decided to go in the regular open great league. But again, another great lead in against a Jellicent. So again, the snarl putting in work against the dark types, the ghost types. And I'm able to get this to play rough. Most people don't actually expect this to be a play rough, and it does a hell of a lot of damage. Like I said, most people think it's charm, and they do tend to shield anyway. So my opponent brings out his Alolan Muck, which again wouldn't have the best matchup against my charm. I mean, it'll be alright, pretty good, but I'm surprised he brought it up against a Pelipper. What did he bring it in before? I forget, guys. Sorry about that. But yeah, Pelipper has a really strong matchup against Alolan Muck because it can outpace him to his fast moves. And again, Weather Ball is so spammy. You get to it really fast, and you can pretty much take him out with 2 and a little bit of fast move damage. And again, I'm able to get to another Weather Ball with this Pelipper. So Pelipper is an amazing save switch. Get the first shield. This is looking pretty good. My opponent does decide to farm me down, and I almost get to the Weather Ball, but sadly I was taken out in that time. But again, I've got my Granbull, which can basically come in now and farm this down completely. Thinking I wasn't sure what my opponent had as a moveset. I didn't want to take a Shadow Ball there because it would have been enough to take me out, or would have been close to taking me out. So I used both of my shields here, which is totally fine. I am debuffed, but he brings in an Obstagoon into a loaded Granbull that has close combat. This is going to kill him like twice over, and the reason why I double charged is because all the moves wouldn't do any damage against Granbull, and I need 2 because the first will get the shield definitely. Look at that, takes it out completely, and then the Pitbull Granbull actually just cleans up even the Jellicent. So love Granbull. I think Granbull is taking the spotlight away from Victini. But these two work together really, really well. And again, if you're going to pick a charmer, why not try something a little spicy like Granbull? So the teams I'm going to showcase right now is starting with the spiciest, then getting a little bit more meta, and then going full meta. So showing all the meta availabilities of all the wild Pokemon. So as you can see, my opponent didn't shield the first play rough because he expected it to be a crunch. So he took a hell of a lot of damage. So even though I survived that, I realized I couldn't really farm it down with the snarls. So I quickly swap into my Pelipper, fully farm it down, and I've got basically so much energy ready now. I can take 1 body slam, and then I can shield if I have to, which is totally fine. Pelipper is fairly tanky, or bulky I should say, but 2 Weather Balls should be enough to get this Vigoroth quite low, so I do expect a shield somewhere. Okay, maybe 2 is not enough to take it out, but it is 2 are enough to get it quite low, and I can fast move it down if I have to shield. Counter is obviously resisted, so not doing too much damage, and my opponent decides to throw here, and I am going to shield here because one of my wing attacks went through, so once I shield, it'll go through and it'll take it out. And my opponent actually switches out into the Registeel. So my Pelipper is fairly low at the moment, so I'm just going straight with the Weather Ball spam because I want to get the last shield. My opponent does give the first shield. The reason why I didn't go with Victini straight away is because if I built up to 2 V-Creates, he would have shielded both of them, and I needed the first shield off him, which is great because now I can actually just build up to 2, and the first one will be shielded, the second one will take it out. And again, Registeel can't do shit against Victini because the fire and psychic typing prevents it from taking anything effective from its charge moves, and obviously lock on does nothing. It tickles Victini, so Victini is quite good, really good against medicham. Again, a little bit squishy, but obviously they're not ideal IVs. Most of these Pokemon I want to showcase today don't have ideal IDs, but you know, if they take out some of the big strong picks, you got to use what you can. So off to a great 4-1 on the first set. So now the second team is a really meta, I would say. Alola Ninetales Charmline. with Vigoroth is a really good combo that a lot of players used in the start of the season, or the first half of the season, or just a few weeks ago to hit Legend, especially in the back line. It's really good. But Mew is a spicy pick here with the Flame Charge and Wild Charge. It has the ability to do well against the Steel types and the Charmers with the Flame Charge. And Mew itself is a really good safe switch. Swiss Army knife can do really good against it anyway. So pretty. I get the first shield from my opponent, and he does counter me down with his Scrafty, which is totally fine. I do have my low Ninetales, and obviously he brought him out because Scrafty has a really bad matchup against low Ninetales, so he's just going to throw anything at me. I don't have to shield, everything is resisted. So I am up a shield, and we brought down a Pokemon, and I do have a bit of energy on my low Ninetales. So he brings out his Politoed, so I knew he'll obviously outpace me to the moves, so I'm just going to go switch into my Mew because I can threaten it quite a lot. I do have energy built obviously on my my own Ninetales, so that will come in handy later. So this first one obviously will get the boost, and obviously look how much damage Charms are doing. So the second one will actually go through now because the first one got the shield, totally perfect, and look how much damage this actually does. Does quite a lot. So now because I've got a 2 shield advantage, I can just shield all of these charge moves. That's what I needed. I needed a 2 shield advantage to actually win the game because Politoed gets to his moves really quickly, and I needed to basically have moves ready where I could actually just spam them myself. And Charms obviously do quite well against Politoed, take quite a lot of damage, and look at that. The next charge move that's going to come through, I can shield, and he won't have enough energy to get to the next Weather Ball. So totally fine. 2 shields worked in my favour, and thankfully I'm able to get the win there. So great win with a great lead as well. So next game, this is pretty much a rock paper scissors meta. So if you get a good lead, it's really hard to kind of come out of it. So again, Mew. Am I leading with Mew? I've got the order in reverse way around, haven't I? So I've been leading with Mew. Mew is a really good lead, and it does really well against Medicham because of the Shadow Claws. So the reason why I've got Mew is because I can just throw my nuke moves and pretty much chip out of there. So apologies guys, I did put the orientation the wrong way around. So we all make errors, but yeah. Like I said, the Vigoroth is the safe switch in this case, so Vigoroth should have been at the bottom, Mew at the top, and Low Ninetales in the middle. Totally fine. Vigoroth has a really good matchup against Low Ninetales because counters are neutral, and the body slams do also do neutral damage. Neutral damage or resisted damage? Neutral damage, and it can build up to him really quickly, and it actually is a Powder Snow variant, so I can shield here, but I'm not going to because my opponent has Weather Ball, and Weather Ball is really good at generating energy. I would have been outpaced to another Weather Ball, so I decided to let it go because I've got the shield advantage. Totally fine. I can just come down now with my Mew, totally farm this down, shield once because obviously I don't want to die to a Weather Ball, and because I've shielded, he won't be able to get to a second charge move. He actually switches out and gives up his so-called switch advantage. No, he gives up his he switch locks himself in with a Medicham against a low Ninetales. So I do let this one go through, which might have been a mistake on my part. I should have shielded with Psychic, and he actually has a Frostlass in the back. Isn't great. Frostlass can sweep my team, but thankfully I've got Mew. Mew is going to be my clutch. I'm doing as much damage as possible. My opponent is farming like no tomorrow. He knows he has to do what he can, and I'm throwing the first Flame Charge because I do want to get my Shadow Claws to get the increase in the damage. And obviously Flame Charge is the more efficient move. If I went for a Wild Charge, it would have been enough to take me out, but thankfully I'm able to outpace my opponent. I think he was building a back-to-back because I've got a shield, but don't need to use it, and I can just Shadow Claw this little Ninetales down too. So thankfully I'm able to clutch the win. What was I going to say? That's totally lost my train of thought. That's Snow Ghost typing is actually really good typing, and I have used a team similar with Low Ninetales, super strong, really good. So I might use a nice team myself. So up against another great lead in Mew versus Low Ninetales. Not too bad. I normally take the first Weather Ball if it's a Powder Snow variant, because obviously it gets to the energy so quickly, and I want the energy stored on my Mew for later. It'll do quite well, and my opponent actually brings out a Whiscash. He throws energy, Whiscash into Vigoroth isn't too bad. Vigoroth will outpace and do fairly good against it. I know I can survive this Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb doesn't do too much damage against Vigoroth. It is neutral damage. It is a fair amount actually. But Vigoroth is quite tanky, and the counters do add up as well. So my opponent can't mud shot me down. Well, he can if he wants to fully commit, but he will have to throw energy. Otherwise, I will be able to. Okay, proven wrong. He was able to farm me down, which is totally fine. I do have Mew, so I can just come in with Low Ninetales, kind of just absorb some of this energy, because he just needs to, well, Mud Bomb doesn't do too much damage, and he actually brings out his all-in-all Ninetales for some odd reason. And I think because he didn't realize I was using a Charm variant, he will significantly get demolished because the Charm variant is actually stronger than the Powder Snow variant, even though he can get to the fast moves fairly quickly. So I am down a shield, which isn't great, but the Whiscash is pretty much dead. Like I said, dead. And he has Scrafty in the back. GG. It's game over. Scrafty can't do shit against a lot of Ninetales. So having the Charmer in the back. So basically the safe switch is great because it draws out anything that's weak against Charm, and then the Charmer can go to town and build loads of energy. A lot of Ninetales in the back is super strong because most people aren't. They are running a Charm counter, but sometimes they don't expect it, and a lot of Ninetales gets to his moves really quickly, so it can be really strong. So off to a decent lead. Vigoroth obviously can hit me with Body Slam quite a bit. My attacks are resisted, his attacks are resisted too. I think mine are doing a lot less damage though. So I do take the first Body Slam. I'm gonna also shield the second one because the second one will take me out, but the idea is to build up to 2 Wild Charges and throw 2 Wild Charges. So ideally I could have just gone 1 Flame Charge and Wild Charge, the second one, but some people don't shield the first one and they shield the second one because they want to know what's coming, because the first one won't take them out, so it's better to shield the second one because your opponent can try to bait you with like a Surf, which is a typical move set for Mew at the moment, Surf with Wild Charge. So I bring in my Null Ninetales now because Null Ninetales can take a Body Slam fairly well because it is like neutral and the counters won't do too much. So he actually brings out a Pelipper. Oh, Pelipper, the bane of my existence. Love using it myself, but hate it because 2 shields, it can basically win switch most of the time because it's so spammy. Thankfully I do have quite a bit of energy built, and this Weather Ball should do quite a lot of damage, which is totally fine. He will obviously have to throw energy because the Charms will do quite a lot of damage. Obviously I'm down 2 shields, so this will take me out, but he couldn't actually farm extra due to the fact that Charm is doing so much damage. And now I've got a healthy Vigoroth myself, where I will have to take 1. Oh, I don't have to take anything. I thought I had to take 1 Weather Ball, but I'm able to counter it down, so I've got energy built on my own Vigoroth now. And thankfully, because I was able to get so much extra farm, I'm able to build up to this Bulldoze. And Bulldoze is probably the only good move against this Sableye because everything else is resisted. I go in quickly here to my Mew because I want to threaten him to throw energy. Had he thrown in return, it would do quite a lot of damage, and I need him to basically not do too much damage, and I want to build up to a move where I could actually throw and take it out myself. He is quite low now, and so this Body Slam is more than enough to take it out, and he actually has his own Vigoroth in the back, which, you know, was fairly dead. So great win there again. We'll play to my opponent. On to the next game. So again, this team is really fun. I actually like using it a lot. Again, this is very much like the Open Great League team because it has Ninetales and Vigoroth as a safe switch, and Mew being the spicy pick, which, you know, could be anything. It could just be a Pelipper, which would not work as well here because, again, like I said, the league here is pretty insane for the fact that there's so many Charmers and Steel types around, so you need to have checks for them. So my opponent actually brings out a Quagsire. So Quagsire if it had a bait move, it'd be really good, but because it has like Stone Edge, Earthquake, and Sludge Wave, or Sludge Bomb, it takes a little bit of time to get to those moves, and basically you got to shield everything, otherwise you get taken out. Look at that, Stone Edge would take me out most likely, and the Charms are doing quite a lot of damage because this is just a Mud Boy. He doesn't have the poison typing as like a sub typing. He takes quite a chunky amount of damage from the Charms. I do double shield here, but I do want to take out that Surge Quagsire. Low Ninetales is a beast with 2 shields, and because he hasn't got any direct counters for Low Ninetales, all this energy can be thrown on this Magneton, and I do switch out here because obviously my opponent would have been able to threaten me with Mirror Coat, sorry, but thankfully this Vigoroth was able to build up quite a little bit of energy, and I was able to get to the Bulldoze before my opponent actually got to a Sludge Bomb, which actually helps me a lot because Toxicroak goes bye-bye when he gets Bulldozed, or any Earth move or Ground move. So able to get a 5-0 there in that set, so great team, highly recommend it. A little weak to Ghost types depending on how much you run against, but this last team is hardcore meta. Like, Mandibuzz is star pick. Like, I didn't think it'd do well against this meta because Charmers are everywhere and Steel types, but it's bulky as hell. There's a reason why it's called a Flying Umbreon, because it's bulky. It's basically an Umbreon with wings. But no, the Foul Players do quite well against Steel types, and it can actually do well against a Bastiodon. well against a bastiodon. And I know what you guys are probably thinking, I've not faced many bastiodons. It's because the meta is still a bit up and down. Bastiodons were everywhere in the first couple of days, but obviously bastiodon are going to be the major Pokemon that's going to be counted against, and Charmers, everyone's bringing a Registeel or something with them. So my opponent actually has a Charm Granbull, which again, like I said, is good, but it does take a long time to get to close combat. So he has to throw the first one, and he switches out. He couldn't build up to 2. There's no chance he could build up to 2 before I can take it out. And now I've got this Deoxys locked in with my Mandibuzz. This is an anti-Deoxys team, as you can probably tell. So I would say the moveset on Jellicent has changed recently, so a lot of people have started using Bubble Beam instead of Ice Beam. The reason why I had Ice Beam was more for the Altaria matchup, but with Mandibuzz being a thick boy, even though it's not the greatest matchup against Altaria, it can still hold its own to a fair amount, and I thought Ice Beam would be able to KO an Altaria, but it actually isn't. An Altaria survives. I learned that the hard way. So it's probably better off just to go with Bubble Beam and Shadow Ball, because most likely the Altaria will steal the first one. That's what I did. I threw the Shadow Ball and they shielded, and then I threw the Ice Beam, and they didn't shield but didn't KO, so not great. So the reason why I also go with Bubble is because Bubble will do better damage against the steel types, but also does much more damage against Bastiodon, which can slightly wall you depending on the moveset. So here, Jellicent is just going to do what it needs to do. Jellicent does act as a save switch, and it just one-shots. What's it called? Galate? No, not Galate. The other one. The female version, even if it's a female version. Gardevoir. Yeah. So onto a pretty good lead again. So Mandibuzz against Scrafty is pretty solid because you get to your air races fairly well, and the only thing that can throw at you is Power Punch, which can do decent neutral damage. Obviously counters are adding up as well, neutral damage, but it's so thick. Foul Play is resisted, and my opponent actually switches out and locks himself into a Registeel well, he throws his Wigglytuff in, which basically is instant death. So what I'm thinking is probably got a double charm line, because why else would he throw it out? You know, I mean, yeah, he want to take out the Mandibuzz, maybe he got annoyed. Look how thick that Wigglytuff was. It survived with like 2-3 HP and was able to throw energy, but I mean, no matter what it threw at me, it wouldn't do anything. But I'm surprised, but it actually worked in my favour, because now I was able to farm it down. Lock-ons do nothing. That must have been like an XL variant or something. But he brings out his little Scrafty, which again, I don't need to shield anything because Registeel has done his job. And I do obviously have a Focus Blast built. I do throw this Flash Cannon because I know my opponent will shield. He has to shield, and he does. Obviously I can't get to anything else, but I do get the first shield from my opponent, and because obviously Jellicent doesn't have to see this Scrafty, it's pretty much the right alignment that I need to win the game. So Power Punch, yeah, it's adding up, gonna do a bit of damage, but Air Release is gonna warrant a shield, because again, the fire typing on Scrafty does make it somewhat weak to certain moves. So I do switch out there, an aggressive switch, because I've got 2 shields. I can just shield up the Foul Plays, and I wanted to get ahead on energy, and my opponent actually brings out Low Ninetales. So Low Ninetales came a little too late, but because my opponent didn't shield the first charge move, he thought it might be Bubble Beam bait, he actually takes a lot of damage from the Shadow Ball, and I most likely would have got 2 Shadow Balls anyway, so it's totally fine. And I do get a second Shadow Ball. For some reason I throw the Ice Beam because I'm an idiot. I want to show my opponent that I don't have Bubble Beam, you know, flexing on him, even though I didn't need to. He doesn't shield, and he brings out his own Scrafty. He has to throw energy. He can't counter me down, per se. He'll get Bubble down himself. He does go for Power Punch, does nothing, just tickles me. And Jellicent almost takes out his Scrafty, but I've got the shield, so I'm going to fully commit to that, and yeah, take it out on the boost. So again, this team performed wonderfully. Like, people were suggesting Mandibuzz, you know, in the remix scope. I was like, nah, it's not gonna work. But it's proven its own worth, and because people lead with like Deoxys, they lead with like non-steel or Charmers. Mandibuzz has a lot of play. So a recent team that I think Oxford U has been pushing, which is a really solid team, Altaria, Registeel, and Gengar. I've used it myself, so I'll be showcasing that in a few days or a day or two. My next showcase video will be me hitting expert ranking with the Bloody Bananas team, which is pretty phenomenal, and I will be bringing that out tomorrow. But today I thought I'd bring something for the Remix Cup, because I know everyone's having a little bit of a tough time, because the Remix Cup is pretty much a rock paper scissors kind of meta. There are some good picks and good teams out there, and I will showcase them after my next video. The teams that you can use to climb like in the higher 2750 plus range to get to legend if possible. But these teams are solid enough to kind of have your kind of fun, but also spice things up a little bit in the Remix Cup. And Mandibuzz again has such a great matchup against Cresselia. The Moonblast do hurt, so I didn't decide to shield that because my opponent was shielding, so I thought I'd mirror it, and now my opponent does switch out into his Bastiodon, which again Registeel loves because he can outpace to the Focus Blast, and the Focus Blast is going to go boom a little bit too early to take it out, and he actually has Sableye in the back, so his whole team was pretty weak to Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz being just phenomenal in his typing. The dark typing just does so well, and even does well against Sableye. So I could be a little worried here. This flash cannon, if it connects, is going to do quite a lot of damage, and he lets it go through. Obviously, he has no choice, no shields, and basically I can do quite a lot of work with Mandibuzz, and I can just save the Jellicent now for the Cresselia, even though Cresselia can double grass knot me if it wants to. So I'm bringing in my Mandibuzz because my opponent wants to throw energy or get some energy. I bring in the Jellicent as more or less a meat shield because I need to keep my Mandibuzz alive. Mandibuzz is my win condition. So the first grass knot does quite a lot of damage. He is able to outpace me because Psycho Cut is such a great move at generating energy, so it does obviously take me out, but now I can build up a little bit extra energy and have this Night Slash or Foul Play, sorry, to take it out, which is going to be more than enough to take out this Cresselia. And the reason why I built extra is because I wasn't sure how much energy my opponent actually had. Had he had enough for a return, that would have been enough to take me out, so I had to build any extra. I was a little bit scared, you know, mind you, but thankfully I was still able to get the win there, so pretty good. So yeah, love this team. It's super tanky. Like, each Pokemon is bulky. Like Registeel, tank. Mandibuzz, tank. Jellicent, tanky enough. But again, another great lead. So like I said, this is a rock paper scissors meta. If you can bring in the counters right from the lead, you have the massive advantage of leading to a win. My opponent obviously has a Defense Deoxys. Rock Slide, yeah, does a little bit of damage. I wanted to see what moves it has. Counters obviously do a bit of damage, but because it's Defense Deoxys, they don't do too much damage. He's very much defense weighted. So look at that Night Slash. It's so much damage, and the reason why I built up extra is because I don't want my opponent to shield or switch out and catch a move. And you know, he does decide to let his Deoxys go down. So again, another Deoxys countered team. He brings out a medicham for some reason. So I mean, medicham would have had a decent matchup, but again, the aerial aces do quite well. I bring in my old Jellicent because Jellicent can do decent against it, but I decided I didn't want my Mandibuzz to go down too early, so do get taken out, totally fine, not bothered, because the opposing Jellicent is fairly low, and now I'm bringing my Registeel because Registeel, again, doesn't really want to see the medicham, and yeah, I can just do quite a lot of damage. And again, Registeel has a really shit matchup against Jellicent because obviously it resists both the moves. It's a really good Registeel counter, and but at that low health range, you know, Flash Cannon is more than enough to take it out. And I do still have a shield, which is totally fine. My opponent's going for Power Punch. He can do whatever he wants. He's got 2 shields, so I should be good to do a lot of damage. My opponent obviously takes the first move, and the reason why I did switch out initially is because I didn't want to take an Ice Punch, and here I've got quite a lot of energy built, so he is going to go for the Ice Punch here, and the first one will get the shield. So maybe I did misplay this game quite badly. I was a bit too overconfident, I think. Maybe I switched out to the wrong Pokemon. So I do almost get to the aerial ace at the same time my opponent does. So he does take me out, and that power up punch is going to boost him now before I can actually get to this Flash Cannon, and he still has a shield, so I did misplay. So I did take out Defense Deoxys, but my Mandibuzz was fairly low, so I did switch out obviously into my my Jellicent. Needs to start into zone. So maybe if I shielded the right move, that would have been fine, but hey ho, you live and learn. Again, I didn't really note how much damage I'll take for certain matchups, but it's totally fine. Again, let's repeat history and try this again. So Mandibuzz against Defense Deoxys. Again, good lead, great lead. Can't do much. This time he has Thunderbolt, which takes a lot more longer to get to his charge move. So I build up to Foul Plays again. So first one, if he goes through, it does quite a lot of damage. And the second one, I'm just going to throw after farming a little bit more because I want to be ahead of my opponent energy if he decides to shield. And he doesn't decide to shield, lets it go. So again, where he saw the match the first time, he actually brings out his Ninetales. So I do switch out into my Jellicent, save switch, and he has a Meganium in the back. So this is the one time having the Ice Beam actually was beneficial because my opponent was thinking it's going to be Bubble Beam. So goes through, does quite a lot of damage. So the one bad thing about Ice Beam on Jellicent is it doesn't do a lot of damage. And Meganium is really thick. So this is looking a little bit dicey. I do decide to let it go because my Mandibuzz has a decent matchup against Meganium with the flying typing, so I am going to shield this because I know I can threaten his shields too, because I had an air release ready. I didn't obviously want to bring in my Registeel. I need my opponent to throw his energy. He actually decides to let it go, so he's relying on this Ninetales, but he had no idea I had this super tank in the back, and even with 2 shields, this Ninetales can't do shit. I mean, it can try, but all the moves are resisted, and Charm is starting to chip away. Yeah. Also, Meganium can't one-shot a Registeel with Earthquake because it doesn't do stab damage, and this is going to be enough to take it out. And obviously, this is going to be the charge move. My opponent can't do anything here. You know, he can throw everything he wants to. This is going to get the second shield, and I'm able to then get to the next flash cannon. I've also got my own shield, so I get the shield here. Just ignore my daughter, guys. She's trying to get in. This next flash cannon is going to be enough to take out this Ninetales, and this should be the last game. And it is, I think. Yeah, so obviously I'll be able to get a 4-1 win there, guys. So do try out these games, guys. So do try out these teams, guys, and let me know how they do perform for you. But thank you. I'll bring my expert ranking team tomorrow, and thank you for watching. Take care.